Moro moro, and welcome back to Culinary Roleplaying, and into the show How It Plays. And the premise of the show is same as always. We will take a tabletop RPG system and we won't look at it page by page and read all of the rules, but I will instead give you a quick TLDR of the system, what is the idea of the system, how it plays out. Then I will quickly demonstrate and show a few of the characters that I have created to get you sorted into the character creation. And finally, we will make a quick solo play session where I will play an actual first adventure with the system so you guys can actually see how the game plays. Simply enough. And today's system is a system that got me by surprise. They went and did an idea that I have had for the longest time, because I am fans of games like Sword World and Ryutama, which are both TRPGs. TRPGs are called table RPGs, which is basically the same as tabletop RPGs, but they are just called table RPGs in Japan. So I have looked at Ryutama and Sword World for the longest time and being like, man, this would be a really great way to emulate like the classical JRPG genre, like really well, because they already have established like the turn-based combat and basically what Final Fantasy calls the job system, which is basically like you characters have like different classes that they can take levels in. And probably JRPGs have influenced TRPGs back in Japan quite a lot, so I think the correlations are definitely there already. So what Need Games created is Fabula Ultima, which is TTJRPG. So they are trying to emulate the feeling of playing a JRPG in a tabletop fantasy form. And what JRPGs really comes down to my mind at least, is telling epic stories and having epic fights. So those are the two important main aspect that a tabletop RPG that is trying to emulate these stories have to do right. And now the question is, did they succeed? And just by going down here and looking at the first page of the whole book, Fabula Ultima. This is your world. This is your story. Make your choice and fight for what you believe in. And with the freaking quill, with pixel graphics there. Yeah. Even before like going into the system, aesthetic wise, oh, they are nailing it. They are nailing it so hard. Like the art is, they really knew what they were doing. Like on point, they knew exactly who their audience is. Let me just show you the equipment. Like, here's some example. Like, they are all made with this pixel graphics style. Makitech suit, yeah, I don't know, the Final Fantasy influence are real. Discovery, like airships, Gatling Golem. Yeah, they knew exactly their target audience, and like aesthetic wise, 10 out of 10, like home run. They knocked it out of the park right off the bat. I have to say, mechanical wise, I think they succeeded as well, like really well. They took the core system that is Ryutama, and they actually have the authors and the publishers of Ryutama's blessing, and they actually worked together to make this book, which is kind of nice. And there are also a few other examples of 13th Age. I think 13th Age was a really big influence on how the character backgrounds are made and how they are utilized within the narrative and within the mechanics of the game. Let's go into that a little bit later. So they needed to emulate epic storytelling and emulate epic fights, and they did exactly that. In in my honest opinion. I have now been playing this a little bit solo and with my friends, and it definitely, if you enjoy JRPG vibe and if everyone invests into the idea of JRPGs and playing a tabletop RPG equivalent of JRPG, this is the definitive game for that. They utilize many mechanics that have been established by modern game design. We have Blades in the Dark's clocks, we have many other systems that we have already seen, and it doesn't do anything fancy with that, but it doesn't have to do it. It knew exactly the flavor, they knew exactly the mechanics they want to use, and they did it. I think you might hear it in my voice already, but I kinda enjoy this game. Is it the best mechanical masterpiece game that I have ever played? No. But it is definitely one top 5 fantasy role-playing games for me for now. For the reason because it is laser focused on what it wants to do, and it does it well. It basically has 2 different modes of play. It has kind of the combat mode, and then it has the storytelling mode. And in both of those cases, when you are doing attack checks, when you are doing attribute checks or anything like that, it's really simple. You always roll 2 dice, and it's paired up with your 4 attributes. So here we have the character sheet, and as always we are using Valano and Takino as our example characters. Takino is our human Blade Master fighter, and Valano is our elven frost mage from the Ember Pine By. But ancestry and kin doesn't have any effect on this game. But nonetheless, they are still the same characters. But here we have our attributes and status effects. And these indicate the size of our die for each attribute. So if I would make during an adventuring, and I would need to make a stealth roll, if I would want to hide, I would just take the dexterity and insight. Or it might sometimes be just dexterity and dexterity. But in this case, the game master might say that, okay, roll me dexterity and insight. And then I would just roll against a DC value, so difficulty rating, and I would try to beat it. There are not many levels, but they're usually very easy roll is 7. The average roll that you normally try to do, try to reach is 10. So easy 7, medium 10, and the hardest one is 13. And then I would take the 2 dice, attribute dice, roll them. Ooh, now I rolled really bad, 1 and 2, so I would fail now. But yeah, that's basically how it works. You usually just try to beat 10. If it's extra easy for you for some reason, then it would be 7, and if it's extra difficult for you, it would be 13. And that's basically it. There is no big skill lists or anything like that. You just use your attributes and your understanding of your character's identity and your theme and your origin. Because your individual skills of your characters do not matter that much. It's usually within combat that the skills do matter. And they are more like abilities than actual that my character is good at cooking or my character is good at crafting. Those are things that really comes down to your identity, that what you know and what you can't do. And then you have very specialized abilities that are called skills in this game, like Flash of Insight. When you roll a 13 or higher on a check to perform investigate a creature, item or location, this includes using study action during conflict, because during combat you can use your action to try to pick out enemies' vulnerabilities and such. You may ask the game master up to SL, which means skill level, which is now 1. I will come back to that later. Questions concerning the subject of your investigation. So skills are actual special abilities that my character can do They can be either combat abilities or combat spells that I have here like this, or they can be something else. So we have our attributes with our character. How we can manipulate the story, how we can affect the story. Manipulation. One of the biggest thing our character has is their traits, their bonds, yeah, basically, and then their classes. But traits and bonds are very important because in this game your background is not just flavor or just an element that you use for roleplay. You use that for roleplay in here as well, but these are actually things that you can utilize as game mechanics. And how you do that is by using Fabula points. And Fabula points are basically, if you have played any narrative-based games like Fate, for example, where you have fate points. So these are basically like this kind of, I would hate to say it, but it's like a player meta currency where you can, but they are like basically like your heroic resolve in some sense, where you can somewhat manipulate the outcome of the narrative. For example, you can spend one Fabula point after performing a check to invoke trait, and trait are here your identity, theme, and origin. So we can invoke a trait to reroll one or both the dice, not a fumble. So when we would fail a check, we could like use one Fabula points to, I could like say my theme is ambition, like I want to be the best frost mage there is, and I would be like, this, I'm so close of my goal, and by succeeding with this task I will be even closer to that goal, so that's why I feel like my ambition will drive me forward, and then I can roll again that check if I use a Fabula point. That is you invoking a trait, for example. You could also spend one Fabula point while performing a check to invoke a bond and add its strength to the result. And bonds are basically like your relationships with different individuals, different factions, different locations of the game world that you are creating with your friends. And there are 6 different emotions that you can have between like different individuals, and these two are always paired, so you can at maximum have 3 different emotions, so so 3 different level of bonds with one character. So here I have affection with Takino because they are really long traveling companions. So they have affection, they care for each other, they are like comrades in arms and comrades in adventure. And then they both have, well, I have now just put it Ember, but it's the Emberbine Pie, the origin town of both of them, and they have loyalty towards Emberbine Pie. So they really want to like fulfill their duty of their different roles within that community. And as many different emotions we have towards this one target, we can invoke one Fabula point and add that value to the role. So I could, for example, do some kind of skill where I would want to help Valano as the best of my ability as I can. I want to protect Valano at all costs, so I could invoke a Fabula point with 1 level and add +1 to this next roll because I'm just so keen on protecting Valano at all costs because we share an affection, for example. And finally, which is the interesting part, you can spend 1 Fabula point to alter the story. If you alter an existing element, you need a permission from whoever introduced it. So I can actually, this is like, I think this is a really good, some people don't like it. Some people feel like it's mechanizing a narrative point that they want to have like narrative freedom in, and I respect that decision. But I really feel like all these kinds of points that give players fuel to add into the story on a positive way that will benefit them, and there is an actual resource that they can use and it has been mechanized within the mechanics of the game. I really feel like that is a good thing, because then, for example, me as a GM, I don't have to think about the balance of the give and take, because I always want my players to add something into the story. So if they have a thing that they can just like spend and say like, okay, this is something that benefits me and this is a new detail to this story. For me, because it has been included within the mechanics, it's for me easy to say, oh yes, of course you do that. So I don't have to like be like, okay, can I really allow this, or how will I balance this later on, and like, because they are actively using a resource for them, so they are already paying the cost of that benefit. So it's really easy to implement in and be like, yes you do, of course you do it. Like, that's why I think it's really nice addition to telling a story together. And then you have just experience points, but experience is really simple in this game. After a session, every character gets 5 XP, and then if enemies have spent Ultima points, which are basically like GM's Fabula points, virtually the same thing, they gain extra XP, and after 10 XP they gain 1 level. Now let's transition into the class system, and let's take Valanor as an example, just because Valanor also has spells, so we can talk about spellcasting as well. So at the start of the game, every character starts at level 5. Fabula Ultima basically uses the Final Fantasy's job system, but it's just like a class and level system. But every character starts with at least 2 classes, so you start out multi-classing, and it is expected and assumed that you will multi-class in this game. You can't play only 1 class. So what you can do is, when starting the game, you can pick either 2 different classes or 3 different classes and distribute 5 levels between these 3 classes. And leveling is really simple. When we can actually go into example character page over here. Let's just take, for example, an elementalist over here. So here we have a picture of possible elementalist and then some nice flavor text if you want it. And then there is usually 1 or more pages of what that class does. So what it basically gives you, it gives you like this ability or skill tree that you can put your levels in. So you get all the basic benefits for every class when you pick the class for the first time. And then, depending on how many levels did you put in that class, you can put some skill levels in. So if I have a level 3 elementalist, I have 3 skill levels to put into these different skills here. And here the number shows you like how many levels you can put before it's like maxed out. And with elementalist, I have taken also the elemental magic, which gives me the option to pick an additional elementalist spell. So with Valanor, I took 3 levels of elementalist and 2 levels of orator, which is basically like this kind of diplomat and smooth talker, because Valanor is really good at talking. So by taking elementalist, our 3 benefits are that our magic points are permanently increased by 5, and then we may perform rituals which effects fall into the ritualism discipline. We come back to that later. Then I took elemental magic, and we can learn elementalist spells with that. And then we have magical artillery, which is basically like when I'm trying to cast an offensive spell, I just add additional modifiers. So the skills itself are really simple, and it's basically like pick and choose different skills. So even though it's like a class system, it's definitely like it's very loosely class system. It's more like pick and choose your own skills. And with Orator, we already looked at the flash of insight. So not all skills are purely for combat, which is really nice. And then we have trait memory, which is basically like an extension to flash of insight. You may perfectly recall the details of any scene you have visited within the past week. You can go back in time within your mind in order to examine. Like, we are basically like this kind of summoned Sherlock Holmes brain that we can just exactly remember everything that has happened in the past, which is really cool. And like, these skills are really powerful. Like, they really make your character a powerful individual. And here are the spells that I took. Most of the spells that you take are either combat spells or they are like this kind of protection and buffing spells. And that is because they are meant to be used only in combat. But that doesn't end there, because we have talked about the adventure mode, right? So what are ritual magics? So how the system deals with magic is really good, and it also again emulates the classical like Final Fantasy and other JRPGs. Like especially in Final Fantasy, when you play the game and you normally have like certain spells during combat, but then there are still like spells and abilities that your mages do during the cutscenes, or there might be some kind of, they have like these kind of narrative spells as well that you won't play out during when you are playing the game. So how the game is emulating that is that you have like these called rituals that are meant to be done during like the adventuring phase of things, and they are basically like this kind of free form spell casting that you can do anything that you can imagine that your like spell discipline would do. Like, for example, me being an elementalist is not limited to my offensive spells that I could use in combat, but in addition to that, for example, Valanor being a frost mage, when we see a river, we could possibly say that Valanor could use their magic to freeze the river over so the characters could walk across it. So then we would just go and determine first like what is the potency of this spell. Well, there is like create a flash of light, block a passage, shatter a glass, create an illusion, treat an illness, locate someone, or sense something. So basically this could be easily be set as minor. So it would cost me 20 magic points and difficulty level of 7. There are different timetables of how long casting a spell will last, or there are like different kinds of modifiers that you can add. Like if you have like some kind of specific item that could make the potency level, the difficulty class of the spell go a little bit lower, or you could get a bonus for your skill level. Like there are different ways that you can manipulate these rituals, but basically, in short, you can do anything you can imagine with your character during like the adventuring parts, and then you have your offensive spells that can do damage or do like area damage to other multiple targets as well. So you are creating these both fantasies really well. And what there's only left with the character sheet is that you have your magic points, which are derived from your willpower level plus other, HP from your might dice times 5, and then inventory points are basically like, this game doesn't really care about like watching individual inventory stuff. You have inventory points, and when you are using some kind of gear or equipment from your inventory, you can spend inventory points depending on different situation what you want to do. Like you have healing potions, you have magic potions, you have antitoxins, that you have like basic potions that you can do that cost inventory points, or you have a tent where you can rest for the night and that will cost a certain amount of inventory points. And then when you go into the city, you can just spend X amount of money to refill the inventory points that you have. Really simple. it has really simplified like the equipment system, but this is not a simulationist game. Like if there is always the holy trifecta of tabletop role-playing games, which is like simulation, gamifying and narrative. This is like heavily 50-50 narrative and gamifying, and simulation is basically out of the window. We don't care about simulation. We care about having epic stories and having epic fights. And like we have already seen, like all the equipment stuff is really reminiscent of the classical equipment, like visuality, like with the 16-bit graphics. It's oh my god, it's tickling my nostalgia brain so badly right now. Then you have your defense and your magic defense, which are basically like the difficulty classes that enemies have to beat in order to hit you during combat. And I mean, that's it. I don't think there is not much else to be discussed about the system or the characters. I think we did like a character run through at the same time. Yeah, so you only choose your traits, and this can be virtually anything. You can be the Blade Master of the Dark Seas, or you can be the Executioner of the Demons, or anything like that. This is like whatever you want it to be, and then you just take different classes to represent your identity in this world. So they are very free form. And then you have the different classes that are determined, and then you can have a different row of attributes which is determined, and then you basically know the rest. Then you just pick your equipment. So we will go into solo adventure today, and we will take the two characters Takino and Valano into a dangerous mission. And the game doesn't have its own like oracle or solo system, so today we are using some stuff from Music GM Emulator 2. So we will make a mission thread for ourselves that we hopefully can come into the end. And in the end we are going to have an epic fight. And today's mission, I thought it could be cool that we would go monster hunting. So our thread today is hunt down the kiting mother, which is this huge giant insect that has been wreaking havoc near Dawnbreeze, the city that we have been adventuring in during our different episodes of How It Plays. So Takino and Valano will go into adventure from Dawnbreeze, and we probably need to go deep into the woods between the valley of the Dragon's Spine, and maybe even in the near of the Tower of Secrets. We probably won't go into the Tower of Secrets today, but into this nearby forest where there is this giant insect beast called the Kiting Mother. We will go into the forest, we try to track down the beast, and when we hit the conclusion, I will write a kid scene for us. We will have an epic fight against the Kiting Mother. And that is for our adventure today. So I will do a few little preparations, and then I will see you at the other side. Let's go into the adventure. Let's add some kind of music in my ear, just to get into the world of tabletop RPGs. So welcome back into the adventure part of the video. And like I said, today's adventure will take Valano and Takino deep into the secret forest. It's not called secret forest because it's very unknown, but because this secret forest itself also holds the location of the Tower of Secrets, hence the name, the secret forest. And we will go through the secret forest with Takino and Valano, where we try to hunt down the notorious Kiting Mother, this huge insect-like monster. And without getting into deep detail of our today's oracle, I will basically throw D100 and that will determine how some things turn out in our adventure. So this is what we call an oracle or fate chart in Mythic GM Emulator. So I can ask it questions about how the story is unfolding, like is it dark outside, like is the sky full of clouds that it will even block the stars and the moon? And let's say it's 50-50. So then I will roll 100 and my answer is 95. So if I roll under the 50 here, that means yes, and if I roll over, that means no. And now when I even rolled over 91, that means extreme no. So not only is the sky completely out of clouds, the moon is surprisingly huge and big tonight, and the stars are very bright, so we can see surprisingly well in this forest. It's even like kind of eerie that we can see so well during the night. And we will make progress through the forest, and every time we get milestone or we find something that will help us move forward within the story, we can always add like 2 points in the story, or we can move the tracker 2 forward. And I also added in our keyed scenes. So this is a mechanic within the Mythic GM Emulator, like when you are having these open world adventures or you are creating adventures to your friends, you sometimes can have like these keyed moments that you want the narrative to include. So then we can just write here the name of the scene, and it can also mean what can happen. You can put it here in further detail if you want, but then you can also put a trigger, like when this event is going to happen. So now I just put conclusion of the thread. So when we get into the conclusion, we will find the kitten mother. So the two are walking deeper and deeper into the forest, and it's very clear and pleasant night. There is barely a soft wind that brushes through the forest, making the forest come alive a little bit. The question is, they both are looking around and they are trying to find some kind of tracks of this beast. And I think they have, because somebody has asked them to hunt down this beast. There is some kind of location that they probably asked that the attack of this creature happened. Like somebody had to come back and say like, oh, I was attacked, or somebody saw this location where they saw like a broken, like ripped clothing and a broken cart and all that kind of stuff. So they probably can find themselves into that scene. And Takino probably will say to Valano something like, what a horrifying scene. Valano will probably just answer to this something like, yeah, you can say that again. Oh, these poor people. We need to make a quick work out of this beast. It cannot roam here freely. And Takino's probably like, yeah, you can say that again. But how shall we find it? Neither of them is a really good tracker. They are not specialized in that. But I will ask the Oracle, and I would say it's likely that it is the case, but I would feel like there is a very, because it is a huge insect-like beast with like razor sharp claws, it will leave quite a trail when it attacks and leaves. So I will ask the Oracle, is there like an obvious track that we can follow? Answer is 91. No! No, there is not. And that is surprising. That is surprising indeed. Takino and Valano both try to look around and see all the edges of the combat scene, but it is strange. It feels like this whole conflict has happened within a very like specific narrow space, and there's like not a clear trail of the beast coming from somewhere and the beast leaving the place. Takino looks at Valano and asks, summoning magic? Let's make an open insight check for Valano to see if they can determine this area and if they can feel like traces of spell casting in this area. So when you're making an open check, that means that you don't put any like specific value like 7, 10 or 13. You only roll the dice, and depending on how well do you succeed, you might get additional benefits from the GM, or you might get additional information out of this check. So now it's an open check of insight. And I got 9 and 5. And we also have the flash of insight. So we have got 14, 9 and 5. When you roll a 13 or higher on a check performed to investigate a creature, we are doing that, item or location, or we are investigating a location, you may ask the game master up to skill level of 1, because our level is 1, questions concerning the subject of your investigation. You may ask these questions immediately or save them for later. Whenever you ask one of these questions, the game master will answer truthfully and you will describe your character's deductive process. So yes, we can ask a direct question and we can decide that right now. So yes, I would say it is a summoning magic, but there is something else in that magic. And I will roll a few descriptors from the Mythic GM emulator tables. 96, timidly, and 9. Timidly broken. So there is broken, timidly, so only small. Yes, there is traces of magic, summoning magic, and Valano can trace it. Or is it summoning magic? If it's not summoning magic, it's some other magic that I will tell you later. But let's first ask. I think it is likely that it's summoning magic, but if it's not, then I know what magic it is. 15. So yes, it is summoning magic. So Valano answers to Takino, yes, there is definitely traces of summoning magic. And it is dark summoning magic, might I add. Wait, so we have been looking the wrong traces. We don't need to look for big traces, we need to look for the smaller ones. And with this information, I would say, and with that huge investigation success check, they find an additional trace from that scene that are only smaller branches, and it looks like it is an individual who left the scene after this situation was over. And these tracks lead deeper into the forest. And both of them start to follow these tracks. And that is definitely our first step of the way. Now I will explain what is a flashpoint. With every thread within Mythic GM Emulator, there will be a turning point or an important moment that will guide this thread into its conclusion. So there will be some big event or some big understanding or some big revelation, and that will give us additional ideas. And if you go far enough, it can happen randomly. But if you go over the point of 5 and flashpoint has not been happened, it like instantly triggers and the game tells you, okay, now you have a flashpoint, so now do something fancy or do something flashy. But the flashpoint can also happen naturally. So yeah, let's see. I think that was quite big revelation already. I would almost want to say that the flashpoint already happened. Because now we are not hunting yes, that was a flashpoint. That was quite early, but this has completely changed our mission basically. We are not only hunting down the Kiting Mother, we are also hunting down the Summoner. That is a huge threat-defining factor. So yeah, right off the bat we already had the flashpoint, which adds 2 additional progresses on the track. So Takino and Valano are going deeper into the forest, now following only a track of humanoid. A smaller individual definitely, but still an individual who is able to summon this kind of big creature, so definitely something that Takino and Valano are very aware of. I think while they are walking towards these tracks and it takes some time, there is definitely something that they can come across. Maybe a clue, maybe an encounter, maybe something completely different. Let's roll some action table to see what they come across while they are tracking down this individual. 26. Deceive. 45. Deceive individual. I have 2 ideas. Yeah, this is how it goes. They are walking and following the tracks, and then they can hear from the distance like, help me, please, somebody. And Valano Takino is like, can you hear it? Yeah, I can hear it too. And they both start to run towards this voice. And I think they find a small child resting against a tree on the ground, sitting down, and the child is holding their leg like, oh. And Takino, as like this upstanding individual, goes right away in front of the child and asks like, are you hurt, little one? Do you need any help? If you're hurt, I can carry you. And Valano is like, yeah, he can carry you. And I think the child will say to them like, the big monster attacked me. It came out of nowhere. Hiro's eyes like flare up and like, oh, please tell us where. Is it far away? No, it's not far. It's just behind that bush over there. And they both immediately, I think they like stand up and start to be ready. And they don't sprint, but they, start to advance quite hastily. And I think Takino first will take the front. And they are going through the bushes. And suddenly Takino can hear Valano shouting for Takino, no, look out! And it is a little bit too late. Takino's other leg will like slip from the edge because there's a sudden cliff right behind the bushes that was so thickly camouflaged that you couldn't see this sudden ravine in the ground, and Takino is almost falling down. And now Takino needs to make, I would say this is a combination of dexterity and might in order for him to save himself like from slipping and trying to grab hold of something. So, and let's just say it's average 10 for now. So D10, D8, average of 10. Let's see how this turns out. That is really good. That is 7 plus 5, so that is 12, which is definitely enough. So just barely Takino is able to hold himself, like turn himself while he's falling down and taking a grab of some of them outgrowing roots that you can see like coming out and showing up into the ravine, and Takino is holding and Valano is like quickly, hastily trying to help him also back up. And right after, when they have been able to like get Takino back up, and they go quite annoyed back into the tree where the child was sitting, they can just hear in the air laughter, and the child is nowhere to be seen. That is definitely a threat going forward. Takino says to Valano, like, whoever we are up against this seems to be quite the trickster. Valano probably answers just like, it seems so, but the jokes are rather not funny, in my opinion. We have to keep moving. Come on, let's go. Will they find now any tracks at all, or are they now completely lost? I don't think they're completely lost. I will say it's likely that they see the tracks again. So let's ask the oracles. Can they see the tracks? 82. That means no. So they had been led astray. But I think there are some traces of the magic. There are some traces of the magic use. So in theory, I think Valano could try to locate the base of this magic. So yeah, I will say Valano will make a ritual. Valano will make a ritual and spend 20 magic points to do like a very basic ritual. And because Valano's specialty is like this kind of frost magic, it will create this kind of frozen thread in the air that will start to trace the magic ever so slightly. With Valano's own magic, they will like bind the ice around it, and it will start to create this kind of flowing thread. And let's roll for it to make sure that we are able to do the spell, which is insight and willpower, and it should be +7 because it is a basic ritual. It is nothing fancy. And that is 10 and 1, so it's 11, so it definitely succeeds. Valano succeeds to do that thing, and they will now start to follow the thread. And I think we actually go into the next step. And Valano and Takino arrive into this kind of abandoned looking house. And the magic trail keeps going into the door of the old cabin, and then it just kind of creates this kind of snowflake looking picture in the door. Whoever is doing the tricks and summoning the beasts is inside. Takino asked from Valano, "Are you prepared? You might be able to negotiate with this individual, whoever they are. But we need to be prepared to fight. They seem to be really menacing and don't care for our life." And Valano is like, "If I have to, then okay, let's do it. But you go first." Takino rolls his eyes. Carefully starts to... Takino unsheaths his sword first and then starts to carefully go inside the cabin. And let's see. Let's take a few descriptions. What kind of entrails the cabin has. Hopefully not literally entrails. 58. Lazily, okay. 27. Lazily extravagant. Oh my god. Nice. So basically, when they open the door, it looks like it's full on like the magical effects when you open like a door and you expect to see a small like shag. It's this huge like a whole different area where there is a tower in the middle of, like, this is like an open area. It's basically like a portal which opens back into outside, and there is this... Is it the tower? Is it the Tower of Secrets? Did we come into the Tower of Secrets? It's unlikely, but it's possible. Let's roll for the table. Is this the Tower of Secrets? 30. Yes, it is the Tower of Secrets. So we are right in front of the tower. And it seems like there are a lot of, like, straight out of different animation films where there are like these living furnitures and like living brooms like doing the cleaning work because the owner is lazy and they don't want to do the work themselves. And Takino is like kind of annoyed to see this whole thing like turn out, and it's like, I'm done with this. And Valano's, oh, maybe we should wait. And they go through the door. I would say the door slams shut behind them. And then we arrive into the conclusion of the story, or the thread. And then the earth starts to shake. A huge insectoid raises its head and screams to these two heroes and is ready for action. I think we will go into the combat sequence next. Here I have created a stat block for us today. The game itself has quite many good stat blocks, but it also gives you really simple, really neat rules, how you can create your own creatures, how you can create your own NPCs. So it's really nice that they give you the appropriate tools to do that. Coming out of the ground, ready to fight against the two heroes. So how the combat works in Fabula Ultima is, if you have played any JRPGs, it's feeling really similar to you, especially if you have played like the classic Final Fantasies, where it's like very narrative based. There is no grid or anything like that. It is good old turn-based combat where other side starts and then it's the other side's turn, and you can create these like epic battles within different locations. So now we first roll the initiative. how initiative works in this game is that the enemy will have this initiative number over here, which means that we as heroes have to roll over that number if we want to go first. And that only determines which party starts first. If hero starts first, then one of the heroes will go first, and if the enemy starts first, then one of the enemies will go first. And between every round you can change the order who goes in which place. So it's this tactical back and forth between the both parties. And this Kiting Mother is an elite monster, which means it has 2 turns per each round. So let's start by rolling the initiative. Valanor's initiative modifier is -1 and Takino's initiative modifier is 0. So Takino will take lead in this initiative, which means Takino will be the one who rolls the decisive roll. But what we can do first, and what every party member can do first when starting initiative, we can roll a basic initiative check for Valanor, which is we try to beat 10. If we beat that 10, we can add +1 to Takino's roll in the final determining initiative roll. So Takino has -1 for their initiative, and the initiative is rolled with dexterity and insight. So we need to get over 10 and -1 out of this die result. Let's see what we get. That is 9 and -1 is 8, so we won't get anything out of Valanor. So now it's up to Takino, who has dexterity of 8 and insight of 6. So not the fastest individual. We have to beat 14. We don't have any penalties in the roll, but it needs to be a big roll. And it is not enough. It's 5 and 3, which is 8. So nowhere near. So that means the Kiting Mother goes first. I think its first action, the Kiting Mother has come up from the ground and it has shouted to the 2 heroes, and now it starts to burrow again. And Valanor and Takino can only see like parts of it to come on top when it also tries to like get closer to these 2. So it does its burrow action, which means it is harder to hit. It burrows down and starts to burrow closer to Takino and Valanor. Takino, I think, tries to shout for Valanor, "We need to make it go slower!" And Valanor probably says, "I'm trying!" and maybe tries to use some kind of spell action. So we will give the hero's turn now to Valanor. And Valanor has lots of frost spells, so we will use one of them. Opportunity means like when you crit in this game, which means like whenever you roll a pair of dice, that's always when you do any checks, and if you roll the same number, so if you roll 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, so forth, that is called a critical. That means whatever the end result is, it always hits if it's in like an attack, and then you can create an opportunity that can be additional benefit. But when you roll 1, 1, that is a fumble, so that is the worst possible outcome. That is automatic failure. Valanor will do the iceberg spell and just tries to have a good hit in first before anything else. 20 points. And because we have magical artillery and we have a tome, which is an arcane weapon, we can add +2 to this roll. Hopefully we hit the Kiting Mother, which doesn't have any magical defense, so it's only its inside, which is 6. So it's really easy to hit with spells, which is really good for us. And here we go. Frost spell. Oh, not that good. We get 8 and 1, so that is 9 plus, well, it is definitely enough. So 9 plus 2 is 11. That hits, and then the damage. Damage is called HR plus 25. HR means high roll. So now when I rolled 1 and 8, I will take the 8 as an additional damage. So we did grand total of 33. Yeah, sorry. 33 points of damage to this creature. So Valano sees the kiting mother going down into the ground and coming closer and closer. And Valano focuses their mind and just sends an ice of like shards of ice against the creature, which like freezes the parts of the creature and kind of like make it squirm a little bit. Not fully slowing it down, but definitely hurting the creature, and they can hear like from the ground underneath. So that was definitely a good hit. And I think when creature is like trying to stay away, especially now when it got hit, it will rise its head from a little bit farther distance away and try to shoot this kind of spike out of its mouth. Valano, the one who hurt it with the frost spell before. So it will make an ant cannon attack using dexterity of D10 and insight of D6. Okay, that is fair enough. It will make physical damage and the target suffers dazed. Oh no, hopefully we don't get that one. So this will go against Valano's defense of 9, so Valano is not that good of a defense. Here actually, so it will try to hit Valano, but Takino has an ability called Protect. When another creature is threatened by attack, spell or other danger, you may take their place. Nice. So we can actually... So Takino sees this happening, like the spike is forming and the kiting mother is making the attack against Valano, but Takino is like, step out of the way, Valano, and jumps in front of the hit. And now the kiting mother has to hit Takino, whose defense is also 9. I throw 9 and 1, which is 10, which definitely hits, and it means we'll deal 14 damage because high roll 9 plus 5, and then the character suffers dazed. So we will dazed here, which doesn't affect us a lot. So what will afflictions do? Afflictions will affect our base dice, because I haven't those in yet. So whenever we suffer an affliction, it will lower our dice down by 1. But you can't have lower dice than 6, so when we already have a 6 in that attribute, that doesn't do us anything. So that is good, but we will definitely take the 14 damage, which means we are at 51. So Takino pushes Valano out of the way and the spike hits directly into Takino's shoulder, but he luckily has some shoulder padding over there, so the hit is not that deep. And Takino lifts his head, looking very angry at the monster, and just says, "Now I'm really angry." And Takino will just make a basic weapon attack using his great sword. So that is dexterity and might. Our dexterity is D8 and our might is D10. So D10 plus D8. Then we have melee weapon mastery, which means that we get bonus equal to skill level to all accuracy checks with melee weapons. That is +2, and the weapon itself gives us +1. So we have now this +3, and then we will deal high roll +10 damage to the creature. And we now have to roll over D10, because dexterity will determine our defense. So if we have D10, it means our defense is 10, and it additionally is now burrowed. So We have to beat now 12. Here we go. Oh, that is 12 from the dice. We rolled a 10 with the d10 and 2 with the 8, but the 10 is big enough. And we also add the +3 for our attack, which is definitely 15 is definitely enough. And now we deal 10 plus 10 damage, which means 20 damage to the creature. So the creature's damage is now at 53. It's not quite in the crisis point. I haven't updated, but crisis point is basically when the creature's health is at half. So then the creature is in crisis, and the crisis can have like different effects depending on the creature. Some creatures might have activated abilities that they can do only at crisis, and also heroes can do some kind of skills that only work in crisis. So Takino charges at the big centipede and finds a location where the centipede is coming and burrowing back down, and just takes a big swing and tries to like basically chop the creature in half. He doesn't like fully do that, but leaves like this big gash wound into the creature, and the creature again is screaming in pain, and this happens. Now we go into the next round, and I think the creature is really angry, and it will use its first action, just slam and try to take a big bite out of Takino, who just hurt it deeply. So we take the dexterity d10 again and might, which is d10 as well. Oh, this is gonna hurt. And +1 to this. So this has to beat 9. And definitely with 5 and 7 it's over 9. And 7 plus 10 is 17 points of damage into Takino. So we are almost at the crisis point, but not quite. But Takino takes this deep hit into his chest when the creature is like basically slamming itself into Takino. And Takino is again shouting to Valano like, it's too fast, make it slower. And Valano is like, I don't know what I should do. And Valano thinks for themselves for a second, and they think like, okay, I can try this. And they just start to like use their magic to just like freeze the ground up in order for them to try to slow down the creature. So what you can also do in this game, you can make a hinder action during the combat, where you perform a check of difficulty level 10 against an opponent. If you succeed, you inflict dazed, shaken, slow or weak upon them. So I think we can now use Valano's spellcasting modifiers, which are insight and willpower, when they are trying to like freeze the ground up enough that we could create the slow affliction into the creature, which would slow it down considerably. So we take d8, d10, then we try to freeze the ground. Let's see how Valano succeeds in that. And we do a critical, perfect time, 8 from 8, 8 from d10. So we definitely do that. We slow the creature down. It is now slowed, which means its dexterity will go down by 1 dice, which is huge, because your defense is counted from your current attribute, which means slowing down a creature will also bring down their defense. And now we also have an opportunity. There are different opportunities that you can do. Normally when you do attacks, you can like inflict extra damage, but also you get an opportunity. And here is the list of opportunities that you can do. Advantage: the next check performed by you or an ally will receive a +4 bonus. Affliction: a creature suffers dazed, so we could deal additional affliction to the creature. Bonding: you create bond towards someone or something, add an emotion to one of your existing bonds. Fox Pass: Choose a creature present on the scene. They make a compromising statement chosen by the person who controls them. Ooh, interesting. Favor. Your actions earn someone's support or admiration. Information used, but a useful clue or detail a game master will tell you. So different types of things that we can do. Or plot twist, someone or something of your choice suddenly appears on the scene. So these are like great, these are huge opportunities. I think at this moment the most that would make sense is that Takino will get into his next attack +4 because the creature is now slowed down, and it also reveals like a weak spot. And Takino can see basically like the same spot that he hit before. There is still that cache. So if he would hit again, then it would probably create an additional damage into the creature. And I will say, if Takino succeeds with this attack, he will get also +4 into that damage as well. So Valano is just the ground has frozen and just shouts to Takino, "You're welcome." And Takino is just saying, "Great job, Valano!" and starts to charge into the point where he can see the weak spot. But the creature like comes up much slower and can see Takino like charging into the spot and still tries to make this kiting cannon attack and try to hit Takino before he gets into the spot and hits with his attack. So ant cannon is dexterity and inside, and now the dexterity is only D8 and inside is only D6. So it's now a little bit lower, but that is still 7 and 5, which is over 12 against Takino's 9 of defense, so it will hit Takino. And it is +5 to the higher roll, which is 7, so that is 12 damage. Takino's starts to look really bad in this fight, but he goes through and has the moment, and now uses his his action to attack the creature into the same wound, gaining now +4 to the roll. So we have D10, D8 from might and from dexterity. We have +2 from our skill. We have +1 from our sword, and we have +4 from the opportunity given. So it is +7 to the roll. Here we go. Ooh, that was almost a crit again, but it's only 8 and 10. So I basically rolled maximums out of both the dice. Oh boy, so definitely hits. We again deal 10 damage. +4, 14, +10 is 24 damage to the creature. And now it's definitely at its crisis point. Will it like break down? Will it become shorter? I will ask the Oracle, will the kiting creature, will the centipede like now get cut in half? I think it's 50-50 odds. Let's ask and see. 62. That means no. Okay, so it doesn't quite go through, but the gash is now like really big and it looks really hurt, if you can say centipede looks hurt, but it is screaming in agony right now. It's the creature's turn. I would say if it would be a normal creature, it would probably try to run away at this point, but it is a summoned creature and I think it is somewhere it's compelled to keep attacking. So it will just again it will just do its best to just try to keep attacking and will make another slam attack against Takino. But the dexterity has been slowed, so it's only D8 and D10. So not that huge of a deal, but definitely worth our time. And here we go. Ants attack against Takino. Now it rolls only 1 and 3, which is 4, +1, which is 5, which is not enough. So the creature has really now slowed down. It's starting to become like more weird and tear down, and it tries to take a snap at Takino, but Takino just puts his sword between him and the creature, and the creature just tries to like snap into Takino, but he's not able to do that at all. And I will give this turn now to Takino, and Takino will use 3 inventory points, 2 to use and remedy, which gives us 50 hit points back. So Takino jumps back, tries to like take a breather, and then rips from his back a healing palm and just tries to give himself some first aid treatment, which will give us full HP back basically. Bada bing, bada boom. Massive deal. Then it's the creature's turn again. It is in a tough spot. It will now in turn try to slam into Valanor. Yeah, it makes a full run towards Valanor again. And again, Takino will go in front of the creature and just try to block it the best of his ability. Takino is really fast and is able to like go between the creature and Valanor again. And now it rolls quite better. That's 14, 15, so definitely hits. And it is 10 plus 9, so 19 points of damage. It was good thing that we took that healing just now. Yeah, we would have been really bad spot if we would have not used that heal. Finally, it is now Valanor's turn. Valanor has only 15 magic points left. I think Valanor will use their turn as well to take a magic potion and will refill all of their mana back, so they are able to probably do a mightier spell on the next round. In the next round of combat, the kiting monster is again readying itself, slam attack against Takino, and now it just focuses on Takino because it sees that Takino is always there. Whenever it even tries to attack Valanor, Takino is always there, so it has been now dead focused into taking Takino down. The first slam attack. 5, 6, 7 plus 1 is 8, which is not enough. The first attack does not hit. The lowering of the dexterity is really working here in the benefit of these two. And now it's the hero's turn, and I think Valanor has been like preparing a spell and just shouts to Takino, "Takino, get out of the way!" and just releases these huge spikes of frost and use the iceberg spell. Here we go. And we have to hit. It was really low, right? Yeah, it was only 6. We have to beat 6. Here we go. Ooh, that wasn't so good roll, but luckily it is really not good defending against magic. So it's 5 and 2, which is 7, plus 2, which is 9, which is definitely enough against 6. So we deal 5 plus 25, which we deal 30 damage to the creature, and it looks really beaten. It is almost completely defeated. It still tries to desperately slam into Takino, and now succeeds by rolling 14 plus 1, which is 15, 18 damage to Takino. It is desperate combat against this huge creature. And now it's finally Takino's turn. Takino will just shout and make his best effort to try to just cut down this creature. Here comes the attack. Oh, that wasn't too good. The dexterity is to 8 now, so the defense has gone down to 8. And this is 7 plus, we get 3 out of our extra things, so it's 10, so we hit the creature. And we hit it with 10 plus 4, which is not that much, but everything is counted. It is barely hanging on. And we go hopefully into the final round of the combat. The creature starts and it keeps on slamming, it keeps on slamming. It will create the final slam. That is 12, that will hit Takino with 18 points of damage. 18 points of damage. Takino is only 10 hit points left. Takino is looking really bad. I think Takino will take the final healing potion that he has. Will go back into 60 hit points. And the creature will attack again Takino and does hit. It's unrelenting fight. And now it's Valano's turn. Valano will focus all their magic into this hopefully final blow and just creates this epic looking big shard like into the sky and just makes it fall down against the creature, and it tries to basically skewer the creature like fully through, and it's like, this ends now, very anime style. And that is 7 again, so it will hit against the creature. So it is 29 points of damage, which will be enough to the ice will go through the creature and just skewer it in place, and the creature just vanishes, and it is silent. These two are back in the location where they first arrived into the forest, where they are in the location where the attack happened. Well done. And they can just hear in the woods. And we can end this tutorial here. So yeah, very interesting. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of idea how the game system works. As you can see, with like this kind of big creatures, it's more beneficial for you to make like additional abilities and things into the creatures. And like, I didn't now utilize the resistances or vulnerabilities of the creature. Like if there would have been fire damage, it would have made a double damage. So it's really huge in these games to use the vulnerabilities of the enemies. But I enjoy it, and I think like it has lots of potential, especially in solo field, in a sense that you don't have to have a huge battle map. You don't have to have huge locations. You can have these epic fights happen in one spot, and you just like roll the dice and see what happens. Definitely good system. If you found this video helpful, please leave a subscription, because that will help immensely to the channel. And I will definitely make additional how it plays videos. So if you have some idea or some system that you would want to see me play out here, leave a comment down below. But for now, thank you for watching, and moro moro. See you next time.